All right, guys, I am so happy it is Thursday night. We are here for another weekly episode of Conversations with Commodores. And I want you guys to take a look at my guest and that awesome background. We are all so jealous of Paul Morgan in Hawaii. Good to see you, bud.
Thanks, Bernard. Thanks for having me on, man. And this picture in the background is just to get y'all on over here sooner.
Well, if you hadn't seen or hadn't marked your calendars, August of 2022, the Commodores are playing at Hawaii. And Paul told me before we started online tonight, anybody and everybody who wants to stay at his house is invited as a Commodore for the whole week. So you got to get reservations in early.
Just bring a sleeping bag.
That's right. That's right. Hopefully by then we will not be in a pandemic and everybody will be okay, and the vaccine won't be an issue anymore. And anyway, good stuff. But Paul, thank you for making some time in the middle of your work day. And it's so good to see you and meet you. And I'm looking forward to our conversation tonight.
Oh man, I appreciate it. I wouldn't have missed this for anything. This, like you said, this is a great opportunity. And a shout out to you for doing it, man, for putting this thing together. You know, it's one of those things of, why I came to Vanderbilt, why I want to play college football, because of the guys you play with. You can tell the stories and how everybody connected. So thank you.
Oh, you don't have to thank me, my friend. I get thanks every week just doing this, getting to meet former, current teammates. All of us are Commodores. And speaking of Commodores, one fella who never fails to show up on Thursday nights has just popped in, OJ Fleming.
The juice is loose, baby. Juice, what's going on?
That's right. That's right. I also want to welcome Ken Hammond has joined us and a few other Commodores. And as they roll through, nice. Paul, I'll know who's sharing some love with you tonight.
Right on. I appreciate that.
Well, for most of you guys, may or may not already know, clearly Paul is not in Alaska. He's not in Arkansas. He is in the awesome state of Hawaii. And Paul, I want you to tell us, we'll get to your journey in a few minutes, but I want you to take us to 2020, excuse me, about your family, your profession. What do you do out in Hawaii? Just catch us up with where you are today.
Well, I'm full speed into a consulting company, Paul Morgan Consulting, Inc., and it's just the culmination of, coming out of Mississippi and not knowing how to do some things as far as business. Stephen Buckles being my mentor and professor in economics. And like I said, long story short, it turned out for me to be a business consulting company, specializing in help people start, manage, and grow businesses. As far as my family, I have 3 children, 2 on the mainland and 1 here with my beautiful life partner. We're making that journey, making that walk together, Jennifer Davis. And we have a 15-month-old Grant Davis Morgan, who's he already knows how to do quick feet and jumping jacks. So he's getting the training right now, and he should be on the radar soon.
And I suspect he's already being recruited by the high schools in Hawaii.
Hey, as I talked to Carlton Hall and I coach high school football over here too, they're already saying he's going to be a running back. I said, no, bro, he's going to be a quarterback. Look at those hands and arms. But his mom is a 6-foot volleyball player.
Didn't Mariota and Tua go to, was it St. Louis High School?
Yeah. That's on the neighboring island. I'm actually on the big island, but they had, their quarterbacks coach, Vinny Passes, would come throughout the different islands and host a quarterbacks camp. So, Hawaii is what they call it, the coconut wireless. So you get connected to everybody pretty fast.
Awesome. Well, thank you for catching us up, Paul. I got to ask, you got to share with us to make us all a little bit jealous of your situation. What kind of fun things, what kind of exercising and hobbies, what do you do in Hawaii when you got some downtime?
Oh man, for me, but no, you can just walk outdoors and just see the colors, that view, I get to see that view every morning. Mm-hmm. and just driving into town, the ocean, and then you look down and you see different colored sand as far as the beaches and a thing that carried over from the South, the Southern hospitality to the Aloha spirit, man, those things are spot on. And I'm just so fortunate to be here. I love it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, one of my former teammates, as well as a teammate of John Dinardi, one of my buddies from Chicago who just popped in. Good to see you, Dino. One of our teammates who lives up in Oregon, who's been on this show, Brett Hayes, is a Southern California kid who now lives up the coast, but he just got back into his first love, and that is longboard surfing.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm
Yeah.
hoping that Brett will pop on tonight for a few minutes, because I'd love to hook you and Paul, you and Brett up, because y'all would have a lot in common with that, I bet.
Oh, no doubt.
Awesome.
The guy next door, he goes out, he surfs and all the different size boards. I'm looking at him. I actually tried it one time, and that's a lot of work to try to put all this weight up on that board.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Paul, we know that you got your start. You grew up in Mississippi, south of Memphis. Talk to us a little bit about your upbringing. What kind of community, neighborhood, what sports did you play as a kid? And we'll move from there.
Oh yeah. So I grew up in a town called Batesville, Mississippi. And, my mom, I had a sister I grew up with, and just at a kindergarten level, was fortunate to have some really some great friends in Deshae Townsend. You probably know him from Alabama and coaching at the Bears now, and Dwayne Rudd and Johnny Jones and Malika Griffin, and we carried that all the way through junior high, and played on the same teams from baseball to little league baseball, and their dads were our coaches, and had an opportunity to keep that chemistry together. So in junior high, being on that first padded football team, that was the first time we played organized football, and had a common goal of we wanted to win and do something special and different. And we knew football was the vehicle, because I was told by my mom I can do two things. One, I could come work in that factory beside her, and two, I could go to school, but she wasn't going to pay for it, just to get back to my Southern roots. Right. So that scared the daylights out of me, Bernard. So I had to figure something out fast.
I was going to say, Paul, that sounds like a real motivator right there, when mama
Man. Yeah.
laid down the law for you.
Yeah. And what as I look back and what it turned into, it turned up that level of focus, to the point of, making honor rolls and all those kind of in school, and having the opportunity to play the highest level of Mississippian high school football and go 15-0 and win a state championship. It all started with belief and the faith. And I felt like if I was going to run that football, then we were going to have a shot. So
Well,
that's what it turned into.
you've already thrown those names out. I was going to mention to the guys who may not know that the unbelievable athletic talent that you grew up and played with, all that SEC Division I talent on your senior class, that's remarkable.
Yeah, I don't know how it happened either, but we would tell people as we would go to Oxford was the next town over. We go to Oxford, we go to Memphis, we just pretty much anywhere in the area, and they would ask us what is there to do in Batesville, and we say two things: wash your car and work out. So we were in that group that, we were at that field house working out, for what it was, man. It allowed us the opportunity to get in there and to do something, and having the avenue of football, and Coach Willis Wright coming in there and turning things around. And he had a system with processes that worked. So, the focus was there. So we just took advantage of the opportunity.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, Paul, if I say PM Dawn, who's saying that to you who just popped on?
So that's either Jamie Duncan. My goodness, we can go around the whole locker room. Jason Donovan. That might be OJ, Jim Angriano, Will Jacobs, Kenneth Simon. That's too hard to guess.
Well, that was an unfair question. I'm sure some of those guys may pop on here tonight. Alfonso Harvey says,
"Oh, Big Fang, yeah, Big Fang, man. I'm proud of what he's doing, and getting focused and turn things around, and having that company, man. That's the caliber of guys that was at Vanderbilt.
Well, and I had the pleasure of having a conversation with Alfonso in the weeks past, and he is heading up the Black and Gold club that is just started that Chris Griffin is the director of it for the umbrella of it. And Alfonso represents the football aspect of it.
Awesome.
And we'll get back to that in just a few minutes, but I think it's going to be a wonderful opportunity in the future for current players on the rosters to be able to reach out to alumni about mentorships, internships, and hopefully job opportunities that I just think is something that we have long since needed. And I'm so glad Chris and Alfonso on the football side and all the other sports are represented at the school. But I'll get off that for a minute.
Yeah.
Paul, I want to back up to maybe your junior high, elementary, even high school. I want to talk about heroes. I want to talk about on the field, off the field. Who are those people in your life that either in your community or afar you considered to be those you looked up to that really set the bar high for you?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that question. I can see it now, being 6 years old, sitting on the foot of my mom's bed, watching Chicago play Detroit Lions, and Walter Payton from Mississippi, and Barry Sanders, and you know that sparked the football dream in my mind. And then after that, it'd be Martin Luther King, and just seeing him give that speech, "I Have a Dream." You know, it really sparked something in me. You know, and just hearing the stories as I grew up about how they came through our actual town just before, you know, they went on to Memphis. So Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, Martin Luther King, and then local celebrities like Cassius Ware and shoot, I can't say enough about my mom and how she helped steer me in just being focused. And then, you know, as we eventually grew up, Muhammad Ali, when he came to Vanderbilt, just, you know, following his journey and hearing, you know, what he was about. There's a whole lot of people that I can take forever just saying, Deshay's dad, OJ's dad, Malika's dad, all those kind of guys who, you know, growing up without my father, I had an opportunity to peek into their world to see what it was like in order to build this thing in my own head and utilize something like the Cosby Show to eventually, you know, learn from scratch and put it all together in the place that I've always wanted to live, Hawaii.
Well, you're certainly doing that. And I tell you, somebody who may be a little jealous of where you're living is one of your former teammates. You just mentioned him, just popped on. Jim Agriano just jumped on.
Jimmy.
Thank you,
Love
Jim.
you, Jimmy.
Paul, let's take it to your midway through high school, let's say sophomore, junior years. Did you play other sports besides football, or was football just your focus of sports?
Bernard, I'll give you an idea of me playing other sports. In high school, track and field, right? When I was in the ring to throw the discus would go that away. right. And as far as basketball, from junior high in seventh grade, going up in warm-ups to do a layup, I broke my leg. No injuries in football, right? Just basketball. So I figured out
an awkward angle.
Just trying to do a finger roll, So I figured out very fast that football was going to be my way, and fortunately, Coach Wright came in and helped confirm that. So intramural basketball, Vanderbilt, and just, you know, some conditioning kind of things, but pretty much football was the way year round.
Well, there's nothing wrong with being laser focused like that. I'll tell you my quick story about me. I was so good at playing basketball in ninth grade that when the season ended, the baseball coach, which was really my number one sport, and the football coach sat me down in one of the coach's offices after the basketball season ended and said, "We think that you need to rest between football and baseball seasons." And I didn't understand what they meant. And then it finally dawned on me, I'm not that good at basketball. That's not where my career needs to be. I need to focus on the other. So I retired right there. I scored 9 points as a ninth grade basketball player.
I heard that, but you won that state championship with that football, though.
They knew what they were doing. I didn't, but I was glad I had them. That's for sure. Well, Paul, let's talk about you starting to get recruited. At what grade or at what time in your life did you really seriously think, I want to play on the next level and I have the skill set to really get me to the next level?
Yeah,
When did that form and form?
yeah, it became really clear to me in seventh grade that I knew I wanted to play college football, and I knew my dream school back then was USC
Mhm.
until I knew about the SEC. And I
Mhm.
remember hearing about Vanderbilt. They played Navy on this game that's so clear in my mind, and I knew I was going to go to that school. Didn't know, the thought came in and left out. And then as we went through high school, had some exposure from the SEC and the different schools coming in to recruit. And then one summer day over in Oxford, Mississippi, Ron Case. I met Ron Case. You remember he was the DB coach at Vanderbilt.
He was the DB coach my senior. His first year at Vanderbilt was my senior year. Mhm.
Wow. So we're over in Oxford summer going to the pool, and he asked us, we were in line behind him. He said, who do you guys play high school football for? And we looked like football players. So we were like, okay, here we go again. And we told him, and the next day he was at the high school and he told the head coach that he wanted Paul Morgan and Deshae Townsend. But, going through that entire process, you pretty much had offers from most of the SEC schools. I remember flying with Deshae in that little private plane with Randy Ross over to Alabama, to being recruited by those guys. Danny Pearman was the recruiting coordinator for that area.
And Coach Ross coached at Vanderbilt for a couple of years while I was
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Yeah.
So, you pretty much Mississippi State, it came down for me, it came down to Mississippi State and Vanderbilt, and Denver Johnson was Denver Johnson was recruiting us. So a funny story is, and I'll still keep in touch with him to this day. The day before signing, for me, it came down to Vanderbilt and Mississippi State.
Mhm.
And I was really leaning toward Mississippi State until Denver Johnson said, well, we're going to redshirt you behind Michael Davis. And my mind was made up. Here comes Vanderbilt.
It never ceases to amaze me, the journeys, the little things or the big things that take you on a different path, a different course.
Yeah.
And it could be as simple as a recruiting coach saying the wrong thing to your mother. It could be as big as this school offers a certain course of study, and that's really where you want to go. It could be a jersey number. I mean, there's no telling the stories, but I'm always amazed. I love to learn the journeys of folks. So let's go to that signing day, because at your high school, that was a huge deal, because there was at least 5 of you guys who all signed Division I. And guys, Batesville is not exactly the biggest city anywhere.
Yeah. And,
Collection of athletes.
the thing that we hope would happen would that all of us would go to school together. I mean, Peyton Manning was in that signing class as well. So having, some communication with all those kind of guys and getting to the point of what would happen if we all went to the same school. And then, one of the schools said, we'll offer all of y'all except for, and they named, the player on the team, and that wasn't the deal that we wanted. So, as things would happen, we all ended up going in 3 different directions. Had Deshae and Dwayne went to Alabama, Malika and Johnny went to Ole Miss, and I ended up at Vanderbilt.
And then later played against each other at different times.
Man, that was crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in just a minute, because I know, you may have high school rivals. I'm sure there were plenty of guys that you butted heads against while you were playing in high school, who either became teammates of yours in college, or you still played against them in different games throughout the SEC competitions. But let's take it to your senior year. You guys obviously have the dream season, and you sign with your teams, and you're with your schools, and that's in February. So now you got about 3 months left in the school year. And I don't know if you remember this time period, but I suspect that maybe you and your mom may have had a conversation about, all right, I've done everything I need to do. I just don't need to screw this up the next 3 months. Do you remember that time period?
Yeah, I do. And I remember talking very clearly with Coach Wright about it. And all you had to do was just, go on the visits, stay in some kind of shape, and just graduate. And being in our, I'll never forget it, being in history class and Ms. Lindsay's class, And, we were over there just cutting up in class one day, and Miss Lindsay said, yeah, if Mr. Townsend and Mr. Morgan don't pass my class, they can say goodbye to Mr. Vanderbilt and Mr. Alabama. So just, you always had some great people in that town and that school that helped keep you in check, which, we were just living a life, like you said, nothing has ever happened like that coming through that town. Then eventually, they got on track where they were winning 89 games. And then you had Antoine Bradford and Chris Young come through there, and so many, first rounders. It was just, we were just literally on top of the world, and we just knew we had that shot, and we just took advantage of it.
I interviewed Chris Nixon last week from Pike County, which is another small town just north of my hometown. It's in South Alabama. And his recruiting, his class, they were the 4A state champions. They had 4 or 5 guys signed Division I, and they might not have had 10 seniors on the whole team, but it was just that perfect storm of athletes and maturity, et cetera. So you're a big fish in a real small pond, but now you're heading off to Nashville. Everybody, wherever they're coming from, are big fish in small ponds. Talk about that adjustment period. When did you go to school? Did you go that summer? Did you wait till the fall or August camp? Talk to us about that time period.
Yeah, well, coming up, I actually made 2 trips to Vanderbilt. One was official, one was unofficial. I actually came back with Deshae on his official visit to Vanderbilt. And my initial hosts were Tank Neal and Alan and Byron DeGraff and Reed. And that's when I met Carlton Hall and Jamie Duncan, and some of those guys. Just my goodness, you get there and you're like, okay, I can do this. Looking around, seeing the size of guys and all, because I'm going into this thing as an All-American as well, blue chip All-American, and eventually got there early in the summer, and from James Manley to Corey Chavez, Damian Allen, Tyrone Yarbrough. We were some of the earlier rivals. Of course, OJ and Jason Donovan were already there. I remember Darwish and Will Jacobs, and Jim was there early too. So we're living with some of the upperclassmen and just getting the lay of the land and seeing those conditioning tests and all those kind of different things, which I think I still have PTSD from those conditioning tests.
Well, so Paul, it's those guys that you just mentioned. There's some serious athletic talent in there, and I want you to know, before you answer my question, the statute of limitations is long past. And you being over in Hawaii, we're not going to extradite you back over here. So my question to you, and be careful how you answer, is: did you ever attend those recruiting parties at the stadium with DeGraff and Reeds and that crew?
Well, I think that was part of the freshman initiation. So I didn't know that there was an escape clause in that whole thing. So I was bound as a freshman. I drank the Kool-Aid, Bernard. I drank the Kool-Aid.
Well, I haven't spoken to too many who did attend those parties, but didn't sign with Vanderbilt. So it seemed like those parties were the way to go for that time period. We didn't have those. We had different kind of parties, but certainly not up there. And do you remember, were you I don't think you were part of this, or maybe you were, with John Shute. Was he one of the coaches?
Yeah. Shute was a GA. Oh yeah.
Well, Shute has been on this show, and he and his wife and some of the other younger coaches and their wives or girlfriends were supposedly the chaperones for these parties, but his lips are sealed as to what actually went on. But I just wanted to see if you were there.
It worked.
Awesome. Oh, we got some more folks. We got Russell Nicole is with us, and Big Derek, my friend Derek May has joined us. So thank you guys for stopping in.
Those are some great guys right there. You're talking about some character guys, man. Yeah. Russ Nicole, as just to use one of your slogans about chopping wood, Russ Nicole is the kind of guy who won't stop chopping wood. And then Derek May, oh my goodness, I'm getting choked up, man, thinking about these guys. It's awesome. Oh wow, this is awesome.
Paul, Derek and Jason Smith were on the show together a few weeks ago, and I had so much fun. It was right after Jason had gotten his transplant. I know D May is still waiting on his, and that's going to come through, I have no doubt. But what I want to talk about is, Paul, when you first come to campus and you're getting in, you're getting your feet wet a little bit. What position did they have you working out with? Who was ahead of you on the depth chart? Talk to us about that adjustment, because it's obviously a big one when you're going from high school football into the SEC.
Yeah, man. So, Jared Dinardo was our head coach, and Ricky George was his, right-hand guy. So we had those guys, hard school, old school type of coaches. So we're going into this thing, get there early, get the summer camp. And this is when we were still going to Bell Buckle. So we're down Bell Buckle. We're going to have 2-a-days, all those kind of different things. And so the first padded practice, we're over with Coach Bull Reese, and the running backs and the linebackers go together. Okay, this is another drill, mental toughness. I can hang, and I'm thinking about where I came from, all blue chip, all American, state championship. They know who I am, all those kind of things, right? Going in with confidence. And this drill is called Bull in the Ring. So I realized later I was actually in the ring. I wasn't a bull. So you look around the circle and you have sixth-year senior Gerald Collins. You have hard hitter Jamie Duncan. You got Carlton Hall. You got Darwishi Miles. You got John Bradley, the Hammer. You got, my goodness, you got Anthony Jordan. You got all these guys who were eventually drafted on some level. Over half of them were, and they brought the funk. They brought the funk. And I remember being in the middle thinking, what in the world have I gotten myself into? Is that split second of doubt. And then without even thinking about it, the whistle blows and here they come. So going through that drill and then eventually getting over to that scrimmage. And I remember that run. I had a nice run in that scrimmage, and that kind of gave me my stripes, and they knew I was serious too.
Well, Paul, that's the two things that I so often hear when we're talking about that welcome to the SEC moment is either when they get popped for the first time by some upper level player, whatever the situation is, or the heat. And coming from Batesville, Mississippi, the heat, you grew up in that. I'm talking about, you'll have guys, in my experience, I'm, South Alabama, I'm used to all that humidity and that heat. But we'll have guys from Chicago, somewhere, anywhere up north, and they could be the most in shape players, the wide receivers, the DBs. But if you're not used to that humidity, that is a game changer right there. And that levels you out. And some of the guys who are new to that humidity, it took them quite a while to just be able to regulate their breathing and figure out you got to stay hydrated.
Yeah. So, I remember we had a guy who lost 10 pounds, and I think it was 10 pounds in one day. And having to do the IVs and all those kind of different things. And, they had the tubs with the ice. So yeah, you're exactly right about that heat in the South during that time of year.
Yeah. Well, that's at least you were used to that part of it. You may not be used to the getting hit by Jamie Duncan part, but
every day.
Well, your freshman year, Paul, did you redshirt? Did you play? Talk to us about that experience.
Well, like I said, I came in with the intentions of playing, and the opportunity was available. It was all about earning the spot. And, I was back there with a pretty deep backfield. I mean, you had Royce Love, and we still keep in contact to this day. I mean, Royce Love is 245, 255 himself. And then you got Jermaine Johnson. You had Derego Lewis back then. You had, Cliff Deese. You had Tyrone Yarbrough. Like I said, you had, Vanderbilt was known for running back then. You had Ronnie Gordon, who was a quarterback who could also run the doggone ball. And then you had Kenny Simon, who could come in and do pretty much anything you needed on offense. Yeah. So it was highly competitive. And the way I saw an opportunity to get involved with it was to literally just do whatever it took to bite that mouthpiece, no matter who it was. Glenn Young, James Manley, having to bang Ben and make them feel it too. So, I wanted to play, and that's the reason why I came to Vanderbilt and just, just have an opportunity when I think it was I don't recall the game, but Eric Lewis, he was a senior, and Eric went down, he got hurt. And I remember, having my helmet on, mouthpiece probably was in too. And Dinardo said, Morgan, get in there. And I ran out, ran out on the field and lined up in the wrong position. And they had to call a timeout. I'm pretty sure everybody in the stand could hear Dinardo getting him, chewing me out on the sideline.
Well, welcome to the SEC, son. Well, Paul, you played in front of maybe hundreds, if not thousands, at your time in high school. But you're in the SEC where you're playing between 50 and 100,000 people, depending on the stadium.
Yeah.
Do you recall getting butterflies? Did it bother you at all? Did you just have one of those oh crap moments? What was that like running in? Well, clearly we know you went to the wrong position, but when that settled down, when your heart rate lowered back to something normal, what were you thinking? Because that's always just such an impressionable time, that first time running out there.
That first play is like everything is moving in slow motion. It seemed like it took forever to get across the field and to, get your footing and not falling down. And when you hit a guy, it's like you just slipped off of him. So you got to, make those real-time adjustments and just recover the best way you can in order to regain your sense of, hey, I fit here. I belong here. So let me get this thing figured out and go ahead and play some doggone football. So that's from Glenn Young to Jay Stallworth, all that kind of heat, Big Jason, all those kind of guys to, getting the reps in practice, to scout team, to you pretty much name it. When you get in that doggone SEC football game and it's real time and it's turned up probably 2 or 3 notches when you add the crowd, you gotta go with it right now. You got to go with it full speed.
Yeah, there's not a lot of looking around or you're going to get popped now. Well, Paul, let's talk about the academics. As a freshman at Vanderbilt, it's no joke. You try to, no matter how strong your high school academics may or may not have been, there's an adjustment period. And it took, for me, until the second semester to really find any footing with my schooling. But I figured it out like we all do. But was that a tough transition, or did you take to it pretty good or pretty quickly?
Man, it took me through graduation to adjust. Any of the guys, who were on this call and was there, I was at study table every semester trying to get things figured out and the transition and the speed of academics and the speed of everything, from morning to the end of the day. So just adjusting with it, going to summer school, whatever it took, I had my focus. I knew I wanted to graduate in 4 years and just keeping everything, literally everything in perspective. I did whatever it took to get through that thing in 4 years. But the adjustment, oh my goodness. From the classroom and some professors, they don't care you play football. They don't care that's your real job, right? But you just adjust and you just do what it takes and just lean on the guys for support.
Carlton Hall tells a very serious and momentous story about him in dealing with a professor and what led to him actually going ahead and graduating. And not every situation is that serious, but and I've mentioned this many of our conversations, that a lot of the professors could care less that you played any sport whatsoever. You are a student in their classroom. They don't care if you have to travel on a Friday. They don't care that you had a late scrimmage on a Monday. I mean, some of them just do not care. That's not all of them. I'm not trying to generalize. And there were many who loved sports and were very supportive of you playing and applauded that.
Yeah.
But gosh, I just found in way too many of my classes that it was not helpful for me to sit near any of my teammates or dress like them or even talk to them. I just kind of kept my head down.
Yeah, that's a good strategy as well.
I tried not to ever wear any of my team swag, the sweats, which stunk anyway. But
yeah.
Be an average Joe in there, and a lot of times that was probably the safest way to go. But I don't know if you had that experience or felt that at all in your academics.
Well, you know what? Later on in life, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I had a thought of I wanted to go to law school, and I reached back to one of the professors at Vanderbilt who you know, I remember him from freshman year, Stephen Buckles.
Wow.
And, when I was in Connecticut, I visited he and his wife, who his wife was from Mississippi. So that's a long story short. And, 20 years later, Stephen Buckles, phone call, email, he wrote a letter of recommendation on my behalf. So, talk about the impact that I think I've made and the impact that he made on my life. He was actually paying attention to me more than I thought he was. I always looked up to him.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome to have such a great connection. And so many guys on here, and just people in my everyday life, have stayed connected with professors who really shape their career, shape their lives. So it really is that's a great bond. Very
Yeah.
lucky for that.
And just going through, back to the football side of things, reaching out and connecting with Jared Dinardo, bless you, reaching out with Dinardo and Rod Dowhower and Woody Widenhofer and Ricky George to Steve Franks to, Ed Lambert, still having those connections and calling those guys and being able to talk in a different mind, so to speak, and the players that I played with, having the grown up conversations about life, man. I'm truly fortunate to have gone through Vanderbilt.
Paul, talk a little bit about the contrast of playing for those three very distinctly different coaches, Dinardo, Dowhower, and Coach Woody.
So you had Woody Widenhofer, who, well, let me start with Dinardo first. Dinardo was, he was, it is what it is, make it happen, get it done. We're going to do it this way, and this is the way we're going to do it. And coming in freshman year, having, the gold dot to the Dinardo time to all those things that was his signature on the program. I really respected that. That's the kind of player that I was, the discipline, the strong focus on what the desired outcome that you want to have. That resonated very well with me. And then having the transition to Rod Dowhower, who we're running now a spread out or pro style offense where I'm recruited as a running back and his emphasis is on tight ends now. I still want to play. So who do I have to hit in the mouth, coach? And how hard do I need to hit him? And then, have Woody Widenhofer coming in, Woody ball and attitude is everything, to, walking into a meeting room. And Woody had seen my work from coming over to a scout team and walking into that team meeting when he's the head coach. And he said, Paul Morgan is the best player on this team, and he's our starting fullback. So to hear that in front of Corey Chavis and Jamie Duncan, I pretty much just want to show up and work and hit somebody in the mouth and get on back to the house. To hear that with those caliber guys, I think it even, I know it did, it humbled me even more so that I wanted to prove that what he was saying, because I still had to meet Jamie Duncan. I still had to get past Corey Chavis and tons of other guys, from Anthony Jordan, who could play any position on defense or offense or, whatever it was. So just having three different coaches in 4 years and being able to adjust to the point of, I want to play. What do I have to do?
Paul, I know that you and I just met 45 minutes ago, but I would love to have been a teammate of yours.
Right back at you.
Well, and I thank you for that. But what I'm hearing is the consummate teammate, because you played wherever you needed to play. You did whatever was asked of you because you had a goal. You had a goal of getting on that field, but more importantly, to help your team.
And Bernard, don't forget that part too. You remember, she gave me two options. She said, you can either work in this factory beside me, or you can go to school and I'm not paying for it. So, being laughed at, on that Tennessee game, because I got caught slipping by Leonard Little, right, running an angle right across the middle, and having to go back home and hear our strength coach say, yeah, I saw what happened when you ran across the middle. That was the drive to, hey, I'm not coming back here. I'm going to do what I said I was going to do.
Well, let me ask you, Paul, during your time period, did Vanderbilt play at Ole Miss or at Mississippi State or at Memphis? during those years?
Yeah, there were two games. The first game, freshman year, I still don't know the reason. I got to follow back up with Jared Dinardo. I did not play in that game. I don't know why. And I heard from, my teammates who were playing at Ole Miss. Jolie Don was the head coach, and he said, "You make sure you make that little from Batesville. You make sure you make him pay." So having that perspective, and eventually when we went to Oxford, was it 110 tickets or 108 tickets? Mike Organ, they wrote a story about how many tickets, because I'm in the South and in country. It's 26 miles away to Ole Miss, so I'm pretty much related to a lot of people in the town. So it was awesome to go back to see that.
Basically, it was the Paul Morgan family section that game.
And you can you can best believe I wanted to show up for that game, right?
If you have a copy of that article, I've got to see it. I got to see that.
I'll track it down. Yeah, Mike Organ. I remember Mike Organ wrote it, and I was going through. Jim, Will, you pretty much name everybody. Hey man, can I get you? We had 4 tickets back then. Can I get the tickets? Can I get the tickets? Can I get the tickets? And we pulled off 100, 108, 110 tickets for the game.
But Paul, let me get this straight. You can only dress 70 in an SEC game. So that's 280 tickets. So basically you got about 40% of the tickets. That's funny.
Hey, it's realized in my profession now, sales, right?
You were the top producer for that week, that's for sure. Well, let me ask you, did your mom get to come to any of those games? Did she get to see you play in college?
Oh yeah. Bernard, in 7th grade, she had her doubts about me playing football. Mm-hmm. And eventually, there's some videos on YouTube from our high school championship year and some of the highlight films. And she's one of the loudest people that you can hear. So she had that minivan going pretty much to most of the games that we played during that 4-year period. I don't know how she did it. I don't know how she did. I don't know how she found the time to get off work and had that minivan that would run hot probably every 100 miles. So they carried water in the back of it just in case it ran hot. But she was there, and she brought a van load full of them.
Well, your day is coming. He may be young, but you better get ready because you're going to be traveling a lot with your little one.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, Paul, let's take it to your senior year. It's the year you graduate. It's your last year of playing organized football in the SEC. And what was going on in your mind about what was next after graduation? Did you have your sights set on playing some type of professional ball? Did you want to take a year off? Did you want to go to grad school or start working? Because a million things go through your head as a senior.
Yeah, and you said it, a million things go through your head. So, starting the journey, I knew I wanted to be a pro football player. And then my mom asked me the question. She said, well, what are you going to do when you can't play football for the rest of your life? Mm-hmm. And for me, the thing that came that was just like clear as that picture behind you was I wanted to be a businessman. Mm-hmm. So fortunately, I majored in human and organizational development, which gave me a foundation on systems and processes. So going through that senior year and not being drafted or not being picked up to an arena team, I ended up going to Connecticut and worked a little bit up in that area, and eventually went back to Mississippi because they were starting what's called the Regional Football League. So I got cut in the final cut with that. And from there, I walked into the banking business. I was a loan officer back in my hometown. Mm-hmm. And I did that for a couple years. And then they were starting the XFL. Gene Stallings was originally the coach for the Birmingham team. And then Jerry Dinardo became the head coach. So my goal to play pro football, I hadn't realized it yet. So knowing whatever it took, I was going to do it. I went down to Orlando, Florida, because it provided an opportunity to what I believe would turn into playing professional football with the XFL, and to also find my dad. I didn't grow up with my dad. I knew he was in Orlando. So in not even one day of being in Orlando, I found my dad through this guy I met at the airport, right? So, that's all the confirmation I need to keep going. So after 20 something, I think maybe 25, 26 years, not even 12 hours in Orlando, Florida, I'm having the opportunity to meet my dad for the first time and to get on the practice field, not as a player, but one of the equipment guys quit. So I asked Dinardo, I said, can I have the job? So they brought me on as an assistant equipment guy. So in between doing laundry and going back to the hotel, I would get my workouts in. I would use the jug drill. I was almost like the Rudy story, right? Because I wanted to play pro football.
Yeah.
So to speed the story up, we get back to Birmingham, which, you know, the XFL Birmingham team, and I'm living in the stadium because the dream in my mind was real, and met Coach Jim Hillier, Doc Hillier, who started UAB football. And, you know, Dr. Hillier, just inducted into the Hall of Fame down there as well. And he asked me, he said, do you have any film? And, you know, me being ready, I had 2 bags, one with film and one with clothes. And I gave him the film, the VHS tape. He watched it, and they invited me out to a practice with the Birmingham Steeldogs. So Bobby Humphrey was the head coach. I go out to that one-day tryout, and I'm in great shape because I'm working out when they leave the stadium. You know, I befriend the security guard who said, "Oh, I thought somebody was down here." I'm getting it in. The weight room is just behind the equipment room. So I go out to that one-day workout. They signed me to a one-game contract, which was, I had 3 days to get ready for an arena football game. Never played before in my life. Right. So in that game, I ended up playing in that game, and I was the 4 tough player of the league. I had the game-winning tackle on the goal line. I caused a fumble and scored a touchdown. And from there, we first time going to the playoffs, and I played 2 seasons. So I hit that goal of pro football. So what I tell people is, you better say NFL if that's your goal, and you better put that work in to get there. So I achieved that goal of playing pro football. And then, you know, when the body can't do it anymore, you got to transition. So I transitioned into government services. And then, like I said, long story short, I gained the experience that I need to start this consulting company.
Wow. Wow. And I'm just listening to your story. I'm kicking myself because I live about 6 miles from that stadium and never knew you were there. But gosh, I'd have
Yeah,
been.
man.
Yep. I live
Yeah.
in Yep, that's awesome. I want to welcome, gosh, we got some more guys that rolled through. Mike McDonald, Casper was one of my teammates. Kenny Cole lives up in the Huntsville area, a very successful attorney, and has been on our show, is with us. Ed Parrish has joined us. Let's see. I think that's all that I can see right now. A couple others have rolled on and off. But guys, I'm talking with Paul Morgan, and what you're seeing in his background may be virtual, but that is very much real in Hawaii. And I'm having such a great conversation. We got a few more minutes left, Paul. But what I want to talk about before we get to those life lessons that I so enjoy hearing about from everybody, and you shared many in our time so far, I want you to talk about some of your favorite hangouts on and off campus. Maybe a favorite restaurant or a bar or wherever it was you like to go with your buddies. Now, again, the statute of limitations is told we're not going to bring it back across for anything you may share with us in the next.
Well, those guys they'll all have some opinions and some answers about my favorite places to be. But, you know, honestly, Bernard, it was just in that zone, in that atmosphere, in that locker room, on that practice field, with those guys who all believed we were there for all the right reasons. We knew we all belonged. We knew we fit in. So just that camaraderie of having guys who actually believed in themselves and believed in a teammate to accomplish a common goal, right? And that was to literally be all that you could be your best, and gain something from this experience and this opportunity, you know, with the life experiences of going to Vanderbilt. And like I said, having to meet guys who were from different perspectives, who believed one thing that I believe, you know, which is in each other. That, I mean, I'm as I'm saying this, like I said, I'm getting chicken skin, and it's the real deal. And to be able to have this collaborative and to share a similar perspective with you. I mean, we all experienced it.
Yeah, no, you're so very right, and we may not have been on the same teams together, but we certainly have so many shared experiences because I don't know if you ever lived in the Carmichael Towers, and then most of them are now down or coming down. But most all of us over a 30 or 40-year period at one point or another lived in those awful towers, but we didn't know any differently. And we had those, I mean, back in the 80s, I had Eric Jones on here a few weeks ago. We called them steroids parties. And that's because a few years before we all got there, Vanderbilt got in a little bit of trouble with that issue. But there was no steroids there. It was a lot of hunch punch and other stuff that nobody should have been drinking. But it was just the camaraderie of all these guys from all over the country coming together and just jamming out to some awfully, I mean, just super loud music and having fun. And you're right. You know, I bet you're thinking right now of half a dozen teammates that if you called them up and you hadn't talked to them in years and you bring up one statement or one funny event, you guys fall right back into it as if you were talking 2 days ago about the same thing.
You know, you just said it. You're exactly right. And having this tool of Facebook where you may not have the guy's number, shoot, I'm going to call him anyways. I know they remember me because I probably hit them or they probably hit me, right?
That's right. That's right.
So I'm going to say, hey, what's going on? How you doing, man? Catch me up. Because, you know, as you were saying that whole piece you just said about, you know, from the towers, I was thinking about, you know, coming that freshman year, you know, not having the transportation or anything like that. You know, we get dropped off by whoever brought us to campus for the day. And I'm over here in McGill with Darrell Finklin, Anthony Jordan, and Carlton Hall and Kirk Williams and all those kind of guys. And Carlton Hall has the old Cutlass. And then from there, we're going to a pool party somewhere. So we found a ride with somebody else. And it was just, if we can't fit you in this kind of way, somebody else will come back and pick you up. So that's so true. And that's so real.
Oh, those are some just, Paul, I sure appreciate you sharing your stories with us. It's just great talking with you. I've so enjoyed our time.
Yeah. And, you know, I'll be reaching out to these guys too. I have some, you know, future considerations of things that I'm eventually going to do. Like I said, one of the things that, you know, eventually as I got through some of the other things in life, I've always wanted to go into politics. So I'm planning something really soon. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag right now. A few guys I've talked to and gained their confirmations, but, you know, this platform that you have to be able to, you know, guys who are going to tell you the truth and straight up, man, yeah, you know, with that enthusiasm, because, you know, that part of it's going to be a foot race and a challenge and running the ISO every day and all those kind of different things. So it's good to have guys in your corner who can tell you the truth and tell you what you need to work on. So that's where we're headed, Bernard. I appreciate this opportunity, man.
Oh, Paul, my pleasure completely. And guys, as we do every Thursday night, conversations with Commodores. And before we get out of here, I want to remind you guys that tomorrow for the Florida game at noon Central, I believe, that Chris Griffin's already posted it in the Facebook group. If you guys want to jump on the lunchtime talk with Coach Mason and whichever assistant coach and talk about the intricacies of the game and learn more about it. I've attended a couple of them. They're a lot of fun. And there's some football players, former players get in there, but lots and lots of fans. And these are the donors, the season ticket holders, but that's tomorrow. And I don't know, it may be the last one of the year. I don't want to speak for Chris or what they're doing, but go get in the Facebook group and see that. Also, if you're interested in the Black and Gold Club, it doesn't cost you anything. Just get in touch with Alfonso, get in touch with Chris. They need all your contact information. They're not soliciting money from you. It's just making a push to get everybody connected so that eventually when they roll this out to the student athletes, there's going to be that database that's there. And guys, we're almost at Thanksgiving week. There's no show next week. I'm going to take next week off. But we have got shows lined up through the end of the year, every Thursday night, give or take a couple of holidays. But please, I know we're headed, y'all hear me say this all the time. We have not found a vaccine. It has not been, we are still in the pandemic. So even if you don't like wearing a mask, please wear it for your fellow mankind. And don't forget, always anchor down.
Anchor down.
Y'all have a good night.